Unidentified flying objects, unidentified aerial phenomena, unidentified submerged objects, chariots of fire. Throughout history, UFOs have been a constant. We find them in the Bible, in other ancient texts, in medieval texts, and in modern texts. These things have always been with us, as have been their occupants. Angels, demons, elves, aliens. It's essentially in the past century that most research has been done on the subject. In the past, it was attributed to God or the devil, and people were warned not to ask questions. Since man has started his domination of the skies, he has wanted to know what else is up there. First were the Foo Fighters. Flying balls that World War II pilots, from every side, would observe in the skies. In Europe, Allied pilots believed they were a new German technology. German pilots believed they were a new Allied technology. In the Pacific, American pilots believed they were a new Japanese technology, while Japanese pilots believed they were a new American technology. These balls would come close, perhaps observing the planes, without ever coming into contact with them, despite attempts from many pilots. Eventually, after the war, pilots stopped seeing them. But similar sightings have continued. Sometimes from pilots, but from afar. More often from the ground. After the war, people started seeing flying saucers. Different from Foo Fighters. They had different shapes. Sometimes they crashed. Sometimes they left traces behind. These were studied by governments and by civilians. They still are being studied. Governmental conclusions are difficult to obtain, while civilian conclusions often contradict each other. For decades, everyone believed these things to be extraterrestrial visitors. Aliens coming from other planets, for whatever reason. Jacques Vallée's studies brought him to believe that they were actually from another dimension. Mac Tunney's believed them to be humans from an ancient civilization, one that had been destroyed by the Great Flood. Without better communication of studies, it's difficult to reach a conclusion that everyone will buy into. But what if they're all right? And let me add another, although I will not take credit for it. It's mainly inspired by Philip Jose Farmer's The Gates of Creation. In this novel, the planet where the story takes place has creatures that live in the clouds. They spend their lives there. They are born there, they feed there, they breed there, they die there. In his story, they are essentially large bladders filled with gases that allow them to float. These gases are created through digestion. They have sphincters which allow gas to escape and propels them in whatever direction they want to go. What if the clouds of Earth are filled with similar creatures? But, you say, we would know. We would have been seeing them forever. Not necessarily. If they do live in the clouds, and only in the clouds, what reasons would they have to come out? Perhaps the occasional migration, and these would be the UFO sightings attributed to them. By the end of World War II, planes were flying higher, and sometimes even in clouds. This would have attracted the attention of these creatures who would wonder what it was that was visiting their realm. If they were a curious breed, they might come out of the clouds to watch these new creatures of the sky, from afar. These could be the mysterious Foo Fighters. Radar, you object. We would see them on radar. Clouds are reflective and radar is used to map them, so they probably wouldn't detect the creatures. I'll call them cloudbusters from now on. I like the term. If you have a better idea, you can suggest it below. Aha! You exclaim. You forgot about remains. We would have found remains of cloudbusters by now. Maybe. Maybe we have already. A lot of UFO sightings leave behind angel hair. This phenomenon has been studied for decades. It looks a little like spider webs. It's sticky. It could be from a single-cell organism. And it tends to melt as soon as you touch it. Considering that cloudbusters would live in a much colder environment with lower air pressure. If they are giant gas bladders, there's probably not much to their biology anyway. Perhaps, when they die, bacteria eat most of what they are, and if something is left, it falls to Earth in the form of angel hair. Certainly an intriguing idea which, I believe, would be worth studying. Although I would have no idea how to proceed. Ancient civilizations. Although most scientists will say no emphatically, there is ample evidence of an advanced civilization before the Great Flood. It would have been destroyed by whatever happened at the end of the Younger Dryas. But maybe some of them survived. They would have given civilization to the survivors. They might have stayed hidden, living in parallel to us. Even to this day. At first, their knowledge and technology would have been much more advanced than that of the rest of humanity. But since there are much less of them than there are of us, over time, their advance would have dwindled. Today they might only be 50 years ahead of us. Perhaps not even that. Maybe now they have to steal our technology, just to stay in the game. But through time, their interactions with us could have been in the form of gods or demons or aliens. To scare us away from them and to obtain whatever it is they needed from us. To manipulate our development and our political and cultural affairs. This would explain the many changing alien ships. Their own DNA would be changed, through either disease or manipulation. Or both. These could be the ever-present Greys. And what of a time before them? The Earth may have hosted many ancient civilizations, not all of them human. Maybe there are remnants of several previous civilizations. Perhaps at war with each other. Warring, using us as their weapons. Parallel dimensions. Presented to the world by Jacques Vallée, this hypothesis tells us that the visitors come from parallel dimensions. This explains how they are able to appear and disappear. Note that alien ships with cloaking technology could do the same. The parallel dimensions hypothesis explains most of the observations and experiences through time. These creatures come here to either guide us or hurt us. Governments might have agreements with them. Or rather, certain people inside certain governments. I have a bit of trouble seeing a whole government negotiate with these people for their country's good, but I have no problem seeing a few individuals negotiate for their own personal gain. E.T. I hope you didn't think I'd forget this one? A few cases seem to have no better answer than actual extraterrestrial visitation. Roswell could be such a case. It sure wasn't a balloon. Jesse Marcel, for one, would have immediately recognized the wreckage as such. Mogul, you say? Project Mogul used off-the-shelf equipment. There were no specific Mogul balloons. Remember that the witnesses said that they could fold the materials from the wreckage and that they would take back their original form. Some kind of memory metal. We do have that now. And some researchers followed the development of these metals. They go all the way back to people involved with the Roswell crash. Another interesting case is the July 19, 1952 UFO flap in Washington, D.C. These were seen by people on the ground and Air Force pilots. They were caught on radar here on Earth and inside those fighter planes. It seems they also may have been photographed by the observatory at Mount Palomar. But I will refer you to John Michael Godier's video on the subject for the full story. See the link below. Conclusion. It is undeniable that there is something going on above our heads, and in our fields and under our oceans. A few short years ago, that statement would have brought ridicule to anyone saying this. Now it has suddenly become a given. What is happening exactly? Your guess is as good as mine. I just think that most researchers have been unable to come up with a good explanation because they focus on a single solution to all the experiences. There are probably several. I have presented you with 4, there may be more. It doesn't mean they are all right, there might be only 2 or 3. But I believe all hypotheses should be studied to find the ones that are applicable. Then, maybe, we could put the whole thing to bed once and for all.